for their booster shot. Plus, you're eligible for a second booster if you're over 50 or received an initial booster dose at least 4 months ago. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Ramsey County's Transforming Systems Together initiative is rethinking how the county delivers services and invests in the community, including through grants. Grants are available to support individuals and organizations providing prevention services and serving vulnerable youth involved in child protection and foster care. To learn more and see if you or your organization qualifies, visit ramseycounty.us/TST grants. Applications are due by September 30th.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clear tonight with a low of 57, then sunshine Wednesday with a high of 67. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Cody Cup, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style, and we take over the show every Tuesday and we rock the vote Native Style. We have Native candidates all over Turtle Island and also our allies on the show talking about political issues and rocking the vote and how important it is to rock the vote. That we are really happy and proud to be on Civic Media Network, and I just want to give a shout out to everybody all over Turtle Island that's listening to us live. Ogimaa, we have kind of a special day today you wanted to talk about and conversate about. Let's tell our audience and a little bit about what's happening today, and also welcome and thank you for all you do.
Absolutely, Bonjour, Anin, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Ganuakwe, and normally I'm coming at you with news here on Native Roots Radio, but today I wanted to talk about something really important, which is voter registration. Today is National Voter Registration Day, and I wanted to talk about some really important reasons why you should get registered to vote in the upcoming elections. Elections are November 8th, 2022. And if you are not registered, certain states and places in the country do not allow you to vote if you are not pre-registered. So it's important to make sure that you are registered to vote here in Minnesota. It's really easy. You can register to vote online or check your status. You can go to mnvotes.sos.state.mn.us. It's a bit of a mouthful. And if you put / at the end, you can type in voter status and it'll bring you right there. Or if you just do a quick Google search, you can Google, Minnesota registration, Minnesota voter registration, etc., and it pulls up right away. But you definitely want the sos.state.mn website. That's the Secretary of State for Minnesota website if you're registering in Minnesota. But we also have a lot of people who are not from Minnesota who tune into Native Roots Radio. So I just want to also highlight that if you're listening to us from Wisconsin, the website is myvote.wi.gov/en-us/my-voter-info, or go to myvote.wisconsin.gov. And I believe you'll see the option on there for where to check your voter registration status and register online in Wisconsin as well. Some really important reasons that you want to sign up to vote is if you register to vote, candidates and campaigns they tend to pay close attention to communities with a high voter registration and high voter turnouts. So this means that you'll see more of the candidates and campaign contacts, reminders to vote, all of those kinds of things. It's kind of one of those situations where the more you do it, the more you'll see. So the more people that you have in your area are registered to vote, the more you will have. Just registering to vote gives you a little bit of power. Those candidates want to come and talk to you. They want to hear what you think. They want to build trust with you. So that is a really good place to start. Another reason that you should learn how to vote is because office holders also notice who turn out to vote. So communities with a high turnout of voters have better access to elected officials and increased voice for that. And they're in a better position to raise awareness about issues that are important to them. Third reason why it's important to vote is that voters are more likely to advocate for their communities and to participate in other ways, such as volunteering, campaigning, contacting an elected official, signing up to be a poll worker, and staying involved in local affairs. So people who are registered to vote, who take seriously learning how to vote, tend to have more participation in other areas of government as well. It can also foster community-based leadership because community members are going to need to be mobilized to vote. So that's where we have people like the wonderful Nancy Beaulieu, who we're going to have on later today, who mobilized. How many voters did Nancy get? New Native voters registered in the 2020 election. I can't remember how many thousands of people Nancy got registered.
It was 9,000, but there was a couple other groups along with Nancy up there. I want to give those
Right.
credit to, but it was 9,000 new Native American voters that never had voted before and registered them. And there's things like that happening up there right now. And Ogimaa, if you don't mind, I just want to jump in and say, I think we're preaching to the choir when it comes to this. We just need everybody to grab somebody on the day of election and get them out there to vote. And it's really important too, what you're talking about, because there's so much voter suppression all over Turtle Island that we really need to be awake. That's the name of the show during the week, other than Tuesday, but we do need to be awake, Ogimaa. And this is great information that people like our allies out there can let their neighbors know, that it's not as easy as it was. We hear stories all the time from guests, Ogimaa, that they're shutting down voting polls and everything all around the neighborhood and making everything really difficult to do.
Exactly. And it's important to know that, like in Minnesota, you can still technically register to vote on the day of the election, but you have to remember if you've had any change of address or anything like that, you have to bring something with you that proves that you live at your address.
Phone
And
bill. Phones
Yep.
aren't. Nobody has a phone bill anymore. How about electric bill? There we go.
Yep, electric bill or something of that line. But basically, what you're doing is then you're casting like a provisional ballot on the basically on the assumption that your voter registration goes through when it's processed as they're counting the votes. So, be safe and make sure that you voted by mail, or registered to vote by mail 21 days before election day or online 21 days before election day, which is actually coming up here pretty quick.
49 days, I heard. And Ogimaa, do you mind giving out that address to all our listeners? Because I'm looking at it right now and it's exciting, but we have so many listeners all over Turtle Island. Why don't you give those websites again?
Yeah, sure. So in Minnesota, it's mnvotes.sos.state.mn.us, and that will get you over to figure out your voter registration status to register online to vote, and a few other options on there too. And then if you are in Wisconsin, it's myvote.wi.gov, and that one will get you over for voter info for Wisconsin. And I don't know if there's anything available in North or South Dakota, but those are the two big states that Native Roots Radio broadcasts in. So those are the two that I'm going to touch on today. But you can always go over to, I really want to highlight this website.
Use the Googles.
Use the Googles, but also you can use nativesvote.com, which is set up by the Illuminative Collective or the Illuminative Group. So make sure you're registered to vote, know how to vote in your state, and then make a plan to use your voice and to raise the voice of the people that are with you. So get somebody, take them with you, carpool. We know it's a long trip sometimes to get to where you need to be, to the polls, and make sure that you have that plan. So again, you can go to nativesvote.com. And they can help make sure that you're registered to vote. And I believe that's anywhere in the U.S. Through the Illuminative Collective. And then, use that hashtag Natives Vote. Native visibility and political power can be built by all of us stepping up to those polls. So make sure you're registered, whether you're Native or not Native. And, if you are registered to vote and you take the time to register and to vote, you're more likely to have elected officials and representatives that reflect the diversity and the interest of your community. So it's really important that you take that time to do that. So those are the big things I wanted to talk about today, Robert. And then we have a really special guest on. Who's up next?
Yeah, State Auditor Julia Blaha, and we're really excited to have her, and a lot of energy coming up and a lot of great questions we have for her. Stay with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break. Great job, Ogimaa.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Ramsey County's Transforming Systems Together initiative is rethinking how the county delivers services and invests in the community, including through grants. Grants are available to support individuals and organizations providing prevention services and serving vulnerable youth involved in child protection and foster care. To learn more and see if you or your organization qualifies, visit ramseycounty.us/TST grants. Applications are due by September 30th.
Don't fall for vaccine misinformation. Local medical professionals are available to answer any of your questions. Initial shots and boosters are safe for people who are pregnant and even young children. Right now, vaccines are available for anyone over 6 months of age, while boosters are available for anyone over the age of 5. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Bonjour, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, I got their shirt on. I just realized that I'm getting all native on their shirt. Hey, we have State Auditor Julie Blaha on, and we are so excited to have you on, Julie, because I have many questions for you on just what you do, and I think a lot of people want to know. But I just want to welcome you and say hello. Thank you for coming on.
It is so great to be here, and we've known each other for a long time, so it's great to finally be able to be on here and. Well, basically, I don't want to be associated with you. Let's just be clear. You're a big deal, and now I just want to make sure people realize, hey, we know each other.
Yeah, likewise, too. And I know Ogimaa and I were really excited to see you just recently, right, Ogimaa?
Yeah, so I got to see you speak at the beginning of the reproductive rights rally that happened in July, and I was just blown away. I didn't know really much anything about what the auditor does, and I'll be honest, I still don't know that much. But I was truly impressed by your speech that you made and your commitment to reproductive freedom in Minnesota. So thank you so much for stepping up and talking about that issue.
Oh, I appreciate it. And my Republican opponent, in fact, is using that to attack me. He's sending that video around saying that this is an attack. And I feel like, hey, I don't know if you realize where the world is right now. And I feel like I might actually owe him money because it's a good ad as I could do for myself. Hey, you that way, you keep it going, buddy.
So, Julie, for people that are just listening in, and we have people all over the country listening to our show, tell them briefly what an state auditor does and the reasons why you do it. I know why, but I want our people to know.
Well, and if you know what the state auditor does in whatever state you're in, you're deep in the weeds. You are an official political nerd, but it's really easy to get into their club. So we'll just get all your listeners into it. In Minnesota, the state auditor oversees about $60 billion in government spending, most of it at the local level. Do it three ways. We do examinations, audits, investigations, the things most people think about. But we also provide direct support for local government officials and people in their communities with tools and answering their questions. And then we also provide analysis. Because we collect so much data, we pull it together, give you some context so you can make a decision based on facts. So that's the day-to-day of our work. And the reason we do it is what really matters. And that is it protects your ability to make decisions in your own community. For many of us, it's our local government is where we get to try out our new ideas. It's where those of us closest to an issue, those of us in community, get to lead on solutions for our area. And that's a really important place. And if we make sure that people have trust in that space, if people have the resources they need in that space, if they have the tools they need, I really believe this is how you drive real change everywhere in the country, and particularly Minnesota.
Okay, that's a really good explanation. Hey, there's some background of your opponent that I think, we need to talk about a little bit. Do you mind talking about that? I know you like to keep it clean and all that, but it's like there's some obvious things that are very earth-shattering about your opponent.
I think we have to make the comparison, right? Comparisons are fair. And, for instance, that I support reproductive freedom. And I think it matters in the auditor's race because so much healthcare in Minnesota goes through local government, particularly that social safety net that supports low-income Minnesotans. So you need an auditor who understands that healthcare includes abortion. And if you don't understand that, someone could get in the way of delivery of a full range of healthcare to some of the people in Minnesota who need it most. So you really do have to have someone who is not going to get in the way of a community actually providing healthcare to its people. Now, my opponent, by contrast, when he was in college, was really in law school just a few years back, was president of his local Federalist Society. That is the group that gave us the Supreme Court we have today, and their main reason was to overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, the other thing is actually, this is the story that I think explains him best. In 2020, he was acting as, and his quote was, he was a Republican lawyer for Trump. So he was working on the Trump campaign on election night, and he got into a car chase with an election judge. He decided it was up to him to follow what he called the chain of command. And when this election judge decided to pick up his wife, who was also an election judge, to drop her off, and so they could both deliver the box together, he decided that was a problem, chased him around, in fact, brags about running red lights to keep up with the guy, and then filed a police report on this election judge. And this 70-year-old man did nothing wrong. There was the police report made it clear there's nothing illegal here. So all of that is odd. Okay, that's unusual. But the thing that's really dangerous is this year he has been still using that story to suggest there were election irregularities in Minnesota. So here he is throwing a really good public servant under the bus to promote a lie. And that is just absolutely dangerous on that. So there are some very clear differences here. I'm here to help you be successful in your work. He is pushing his own political agenda at any cost.
Yeah, it just seems like they're not for anything. They're just against stuff. And we talk about that all the time. It's just really, really disappointing. And working with a former president, that ought to tell you a lot of things. Could you explain?
And just still bragging about it. That's the thing. This is his own story he's telling, and that's what's so unusual about that. And in fact, the idea of building things up versus tearing things down, that really is the biggest difference. One of the things I'm proud of is that I will call out things that are successful as hard as I call out things that aren't. And, during COVID, we saw local governments really rise to the occasion in many ways. And we have been calling that out. So we remember it. So when next time we're in a crisis, we can recreate that success. Well, he says that makes me simply just a cheerleader for local government. And now, of course, the middle school nerd in me is kind of excited to be being called a cheerleader. I may have tried out and didn't get a call back, and certainly not still bitter about it. But there was something funny about that. But it gets really down deep into the idea that if you cannot say what's good as well as what's bad, people will not have the balance they need to make good decisions. And so you have to be able to say things that are true, not just things that'll get you headlines.
Wow. Hey, we only got a couple minutes left here, and I know you're very busy and now campaigning, but I'm wondering if you could talk about the issues you're working on, or the important ones that you regard with Minnesota's indigenous population. I know you're working hard on that, and you can let our natives and our allies know what you're doing.
Well, one of the things that we get to do is, because if you want to talk about an example of successful local government, of a local government entities that need to get important things done under great pressure, you want to look at indigenous communities, and you look at tribal government, and there is so many things that deserve to be recreated across Minnesota because they're just so effective. So what I've been really lucky is that so many tribal government leaders have shared with me their effective tactics, and our goal is to get that out there and include that in our analysis. Another issue, though, that I've heard a lot from Indigenous people, and particularly people who have public pensions, is that they want to make sure we're investing their pension funds fairly and effectively. And one of the things we all know is that climate risk is also investment risk. So any good investor right now, even if you did not care about the climate, you would consider climate change as a risk as you invest. My opponent, on the other hand, has decided that that's simply, I think, what he called woke investing, and is trying to discredit overwhelming evidence from every place, from Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan to Bloomberg to everybody, and would rather see us, frankly, invest in coal. He literally said it would have been better for us to have been invested in coal. And that kind of risky and risky choice that it will only benefit a polluter is not really, it's not fair to our pensioners, and it's really not fair to any taxpayer in Minnesota.
Absolutely not. That hits the head right on the nail right there. We got like a minute left here, and we really appreciate you stopping in, and we'd like to see you too. There's only 49 days left, and I want to wish you a National Voter Registration Day.
Oh, I'm sorry to talk over you. That just definitely fires me up. I'll tell you, everybody who is, I heard your discussion about registering to vote. Just know this: hey, you may know, at this point, you know more about the state auditor than most people. And I'll tell you, it's people like you are the only reason someone like me gets elected. I'm a regular person. I was a teacher. If I don't have regular people registered who will go out and work down that whole ticket, that's the only way I get elected. And frankly, it's the only way I want to get elected. So it's people like you that get me in, and I'd be deeply honored to have your vote, and I really want to see you at the polls.
Wow. Thank you so much for stopping in. Ogimaa, we got less than a minute. Do you have a question or a statement before we get going here?
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement, is that one of those really profound things that people say, you don't have to worry about organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, when they come marching down the street. You have to worry about those kinds of people in political positions, as your doctor, as those kinds of things. So I'm really excited that Auditor Blaha highlighted that, even as the auditor, as somebody who's supposed to be acting, nonpartisanly in their position, that it's really important that she's highlighting that that's what she's willing to do. And meanwhile, there are candidates who will use that position and abuse it to push their own power. So kudos and thank you, miigwech, to you, State Auditor Blaha, for coming on and joining us.
When your rights are on the line, every voice matters. And thank you so much for letting me come out and talk to people.
All right. We'll see you soon. Happy voter registration day. We'll be right back with Nancy Beaulieu, and she has Mark Morrissey. And we're rocking the vote native style. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
So much fun.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Ramsey County's Transforming Systems Together initiative is rethinking how the county delivers services and invests in the community, including through grants. Grants are able to support individuals and organizations providing prevention services and serving vulnerable youth involved in child protection and foster care. To learn more and see if you or your organization qualifies, visit ramseycounty.us/TST grants. Applications are due by September 30th.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
It's an absolute must for any true foodie. Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis offers premium oils and vinegars for the most discriminating of tastes. This is Sarah Piepenberg, owner of Vinaigrette. We bottle on site, there's no guesswork, and you get to taste test each and every oil and vinegar we offer. Our direct relationship with the growers ensures an uncompromised level of satisfaction. When you need to know you're cooking with the finest ingredients, first contact the independently owned Vinaigrette, 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Online at vinaigrettemn.com.
Next Chapter Booksellers has lots of new books in stock, just small, and while we're sad to see summer go, the colder weather does make better reading weather, so stop by the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. Browse the shelves, or if you're not sure what to get, ask a friendly bookseller. We're great at making recommendations no matter your taste. Next Chapter Booksellers also has a wide variety of puzzles, games, and even some early holiday shopping gift ideas. That's the independently owned Next Chapter Booksellers in St. Paul.
Hi, I'm Scott Shamblot from Shamblot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. And we'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblot Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblotfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow this summer, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clear tonight with a low of 57, then sunshine Wednesday with a high of 67. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we're in round 2 now of Rock the Vote Native Style, and we've brought the heavy hitters in now. We got Nancy Beaulieu and her guest, Mark Morrissey. And I want you to, we were just talking about you too on the great job that you did last cycle, Nancy. You helped out with those 9,000 new registers up there in the deep north. So I just want to say welcome, and I'm excited to listen to and talk to your guest. Welcome, Nancy.
Well, Bonjour, and it's always a pleasure to be on the show. And I want to say, it was also the Red Lake Nation that did a lot of hard work during the 2020 voter registration. And I had an opportunity just today to share the good work with voter registration in northern Minnesota with NPR Radio. So watch for that segment coming out soon. And I also want to make note that we're having a block party in Bemidji, Minnesota, October 22nd from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Bemidji waterfront. And we are going to meet the candidates. We are going to do voter registration. Our foundation is treaties because, again, treaties are nonpartisan. So regardless of what political party you belong to, what church you go to, how you self-identify, the color of your skin, we're all treaty people here. And so, as Anishinaabe, it's in our best interest to protect our culture like our ancestors intended when they signed these treaties with the non-native treaty partners. And our guest tonight is actually a fine example of what a good treaty person looks like. And, Mark Morrissey is I think he's been in the Bemidji area for a couple decades, maybe a little bit more. He's a family guy, and he's actually a very active citizen. And I know he's going to share a little bit about his experience at Standing Rock with us. And I also want to give him a shout out for fixing my bike to take that ride for the water back a couple of years ago. So he's so involved, and this is just a great candidate. And I couldn't be more honored to have him here as a guest tonight. And again, he's running for Beltrami County Commissioner, District 1 here in northern Minnesota. So welcome to the show tonight. And yeah, he has a lot of goodness. I couldn't tell you again, this is a perfect example of how a good treaty person should be. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you. And it's very big honor to be on the show tonight. I've watched the show frequently, and I like the long format, the long interviews, and the really good perspectives. So I appreciate the show. That it's a really great alternative news source. I've enjoyed this for a long time.
Right. And I'd like to think that you're about the environment. Well, actually, I know you're about the environment. And, that's what makes you a great candidate, because you align with some of the values that, we as Anishinaabe are doing to protect all that is sacred. And again, treaties are nonpartisan, and your position is also a nonpartisan position. So you might want to let our reader or our listeners know what nonpartisan means, because a lot of our people don't know that.
Yes, I'm running for county commissioner, and the county that county board is like an administrative arm of the state of Minnesota. So we kind of supervise funds that come from the state for health and human services, for highways and infrastructure, for things like law enforcement, and just kind of supervise that those funds are properly spent in the county. So we're not a big legislative body or anything like that. We just kind of supervise the funding that comes in. And I think historically it's kind of a boring role, frankly. They're big funds, but it should be kind of a dull, nonpartisan role. We should be mowing ditches and funding libraries. And I think what's happened in the last few years, you've all seen it, is that partisan politics have crept into school boards and into county boards. And I decided to run against my opponent because I think he's just pulled a few too many partisan stunts and just brought agendas with him that I just couldn't agree with. I wrote a few letters to the editor when I opposed some of those maneuvers and just decided rather abruptly to jump into the race this summer. And I've got a lot of support. I've had a lot of people kind of speak up and say like they'd like to see things cool off in that county boardroom, not have agendas and so forth. And so it's been quite a adventure to be a candidate. I've never done this before. I've supported other candidates and worked on campaigns, but being a candidate is a whole new experience for me. It's quite challenging at times, but I really, really like it. So tonight, we can talk about voting. We can talk about the race I'm in. We can talk about Nancy's activism. I think it's all of a piece. And key to my platform, and we worked on this stuff, is like we're a clean water economy, and Nancy and I can totally agree on this. Like we have this clean water, tourism, fishing. Like what do we have if we don't? Like I'm out here at Diamond Point tonight looking at the last really beautiful night of the summer, I think. And what do we have if we don't have these beautiful lakes and streams for fishing and recreation and people to come to their cabins and so forth? Like if we overuse this resource or we neglect to steward it into the next generation, we've really not done our job. And so I think of that stewardship role as really essential. And to be honest, I've learned quite a bit of that, like from 7th generation teachings and so forth, when you make decisions to think like many generations down the road, not even just your kids' future, but like their grandchildren and on down the road. So that's been extremely valuable to me to share that perspective. Nancy and I were joking about this. Like I didn't go like as an activist to Standing Rock. Like I didn't go there to get in the way of machines or to do anything frontline. I kind of went there because I was concerned about students from BSU. I work at BSU, actually getting hurt, getting like pepper sprayed and like I know a lot of people from the American Indian Resource Center and people who were paying a lot of attention to that. And I was like, good grief, these people are getting clobbered by like rubber rounds and canisters and things like that. I simply couldn't believe the images I saw. So I went there to kind of help out serve as a role of a medic. And then I arrived after that really kind of heavy duty night of people getting sprayed and shot at with rubber rounds and that type of thing. And I just couldn't believe my eyes, like the level of kind of like that level of aggressive police state type of thing. I've just never witnessed anything like that with my own eyes. And then to counter that, I found a lot of people, their impression, like my family, like my uncles and stuff. I came back, it was like, Thanksgiving back in Minnesota after that time. And their impression of it from the news was really inaccurate. It was like that everybody there was, they're all there to cause trouble and so forth. And when I was there, it was nothing but, it was like students and little grandmothers, and they were there to pray, and they kept the place clean as can be and really organized. And there were meals for people. I helped with the construction of like the Two-Spirit shelter that was there. And I was just, two things, like the impression of how, the impression that people had from the news media was completely wrong. Just having seen it, I think you'd agree, Nancy, that like it was portrayed as like this big, crazy, like music concert where everybody left a mess or whatever that, like that crazy concert that the
1999.
Are you going to tell him,
yeah,
Robert?
yeah, like that show that was on recently about the Woodstock 2 or whatever. That was just a disaster, right? It was nothing like that until people got kind of like shoved on out of there in such a hurry, and they were just kind of ordered to leave so quickly. Anyway,
Mark,
after that, I got to know Nancy a bit, and I thought, are we going to see all this? Are we going to see all this in our backyard at home? And sure enough, it's kind of come to pass. And I saw that the firm that did advising was sort of advising the police and so forth. And I thought, this is really wild to have like Tiger Swan was this intelligence unit that sort of gave briefings to the sheriff's department. And I thought, this is really crazy stuff. So anyway, we got to know each other a bit. And Nancy has just impressed me so much with all of her activism. Like she just kind of keeps on just going and going. I can hardly, she's got this well of energy for everything she works on.
Mark,
I'm so impressed. You're really a hero to me.
I can't wait.
And I think what it is, it's the diplomatic way that you communicate, Nancy. Like when you're like when you're out there and you communicate with people, you're just explaining your position and you're really calm and you really diffuse conflict. And that is really amazing to me.
Thank you. And, I think you brought up a good point earlier about the clean. And what I think is important, and not a lot of non-natives understand that Minnesota tourism is dependent upon $18 billion. And
yeah, 20 million. Yep.
Yep, and I think we should put Minnesotans first in our livelihoods before we do a corporate entity like Enbridge. So I think, what we saw out to the Line 3 easement occupation last year is that Enbridge created frackouts and aquifer breaches, and we are the first city on the Mississippi. And it seems that many of our local elected officials are not paying attention to the damage that Enbridge has brought here. But I think if we show up and start voting for people like yourself, we can see the majority vote in our favor, and that's where we see change. And that's why I appreciate people like yourself. Your community, and you connect to the people, and our issues are your issues, and that's what makes you a great candidate.
Hey,
thanks. I thought about this, Nancy. My opponent, I kind of read up a little bit because he was pressing that like people who had charges against them, that they should, really like don't drop any charges, and we should really press charges against all these folks who participated. And honestly, some of these charges were so ridiculous when you read, like, I like to read the court, documents, not just hear about it from somebody, or like, oh, these people out on the lines and the protesters, like the one where people were actually assembled on, what was it, like Winona LaDuke's driveway or something? That would be like getting pulled off my own driveway discussing, whatever we're going to do. And they said she was trespassing, and that type of thing just blew my mind, that they pursue these charges. Like if people are vandalizing or harming anyone, they should be charged appropriately. But these things like incitement to riot and these crazy charges that is it Shanna or Shania they face, I thought they were just ludicrous on their face.
Right. And Robert, I have a question for you.
Well, no, I was just I don't know if you can hear me, Mark, but the reason why we started Native Roots Radio in 2016 was because of all the misinformation from Standing Rock. And so I agree with you. And then it came here, and then our relatives that are listening to us in Wisconsin, now Enbridge wants to put more pipelines up there. And so it's goes on and on. So we need people that are for the people and not for big companies, and especially foreign
I have to just put this in. Like, my opponent wears an Enbridge hat to board meetings. Okay, like when they had Zoom meetings and stuff like that. Like he was just, he dressed up like he was at a Enbridge picnic, which I just found way out of line, completely out of line. And then he signed onto a letter like he was trying to say that they should pull the permit for Indigo Girls to play with the Honor the Earth concert that was just held over in Duluth. Like my wife and all her friends went. I'm like, you can't, you don't want Indigo Girls to play in Duluth. Like you're really barking up the wrong tree. Like that's just crazy. So I think to be so in the pocket just seems to be crazy to me. Like I think people can, if they're in favor of, if they think like if they work on the pipeline or they're a welder or something like that. Like I'm sympathetic to those views. Like okay, like they might vote the way they do, but to just be a cheerleader while sitting on a public board as a commissioner is crazy to me.
We're going to take a quick break, Mark, and we'll be right back with you and Nancy and Ogimaa. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style.
Way to go, Nancy.
I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org. At Metro State University, students learn from expert instructors in high-demand degree programs such as healthcare, technology, cybersecurity, teaching, and business. As one of the most diverse universities in Minnesota, Metro State University is a flexible learning environment dedicated to equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. Explore more than 60 high-quality undergraduate programs at Metro State University's Open House, online October 11th through 13th. and in person October 19th and 20th. Visit metrostate.edu for details.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Okay, Nancy and Mark, you're lame. Just throwing that out there. Ho.
Yeah. I just wanted to really quick mention the fact, and the nonpartisan is neither Republican, Democrat, or whatever party it might be. These are positions where they are not aligned with any party, and they're there in the best interest of the community. And thinking back to the Firelight encampment, the 8-day occupation in June of 2021, I am one of 3 defendants, Anishinaabe defendants, that won our case in that matter. Yep. And what we had proved was that the state of Minnesota lacked subject matter jurisdiction over the Anishinaabe protecting their natural resources on or off the reservation. So this is, a huge win for us. And, as a county commissioner moving forward, I would hope, a candidate like yourself would have a discussion with Beltrami County Sheriff's Department, the city police, to say, hey, you know what? These people have inherent rights to protect their natural resources, and these are protected under those treaties that we signed together collectively as treaty people. And one reason why our ancestors signed those treaties was protect our way, and we are people of the water. So I would hope someone like yourself would get into this type of position along with Joe Gould and Tim Sumner of Red Lake. And Joe Gould is another ally who's going to be on our show October 4th. But again, a majority vote will bring that change, but we also want to come in as constituents and talk about this treaty win and what it means to Beltrami County when it comes to being a part of a Northern Lights task force that hold us back and criminalize us or try to criminalize us for protecting our treaties. And again, these are our rights. And I hope that you will bring this conversation to the table and because many times we'll go to the commissioners meeting, and we get to speak, that was great, Nancy, next, and then they forget about us. This is why it's important that someone like you win. And when I seen your announcement on Facebook, I was so filled with joy, thinking we have a chance to do something better here. But it's people like you that need to be elected into these positions. And, a lot of people don't understand how important these midterm elections are, or how local elections are, meaningful to us as treaty people, because to assert treaties is not a crime. To deny those treaties is a crime.
I think you said it right. I think your expression that we're all treaty people is really important. Like, this is a legal education that people need, that I need, and to kind of recognize that treaties are some of the oldest venerated legal documents that we possess. It's not just like, that happened so long ago. It's like, no, these are really important binding legal documents to grasp and understand. These are between nations, and so it's on us to kind of learn more and not just sort of like tread past these issues and kind of think like, well, I don't think that applies in this case. Like you've experienced, Nancy. I think you've met up with like law enforcement and legal people. Some are really informed, and some are. It's not a matter of just being like on your side politically. It's like they're just informed or not informed on the legal aspects of treaties. And I think that's the best way to approach it. And that's the way you explain it to people. And you've had sheriffs that you work with that are receptive, and you've had people that don't really give you, time to listen. But I think people that are respectful and willing to learn, that's the best we can do, is to begin there.
And, I tell the non-natives that don't agree with the treaties, I said, you do have one more option. And the option would be you can just build another Mayflower and head on back. But, we don't want to go there neither. We want to learn how to get along and live in peace and good neighbors, as those treaties intended us to do. And, if your house, your business is occupied on these lands, you are still benefiting from those treaties that our ancestors signed, and they are living documents, and they're very much alive today as the day they were signed. And so when we think about seeing people that really care about treaties and their obligation to honor them, that's what makes you a great candidate in my eyes, because I've seen you in places, in the community. I seen you engage with Native people, and you're not above us, and you're just community. And that's part of the block party when we do that on the 22nd, is people like yourselves. You're not just a career politician in a suit with a name and no face on the ballot. You are here with your boots on the ground, being our voice.
Do you want to talk about this voting, this next election, the Rock to Vote effort?
Yeah. Well, what I would like to for people to know is that, what's really important again is that voter registration, and how do we rock this vote and get people like yourself into office. So, October 22nd brings the day of Meet the Candidates, voter registration, why voting matters. And most importantly, we're going to work on civic engagement, because, more often than not, we elect officials, and then after elections, they forget about us. But I think when we have people like yourself in the office, we know we can come to you and find some goodness and some progress moving forward. And I want to know how that looks for you, and what are some of your intentions.
I'd like to speak to that a little bit. I mean, because I understand that there's some skepticism of people feeling kind of transactional, like, oh, well, we really need you to vote and get your vote out. And then the channel goes quiet when it comes to having exchange. And that's really important to me, is that like we're all like, and I look at this district, I go, well, we've got people, from Black Duck down to Pennington, down to Cass Lake, and I have to be available for these constituents. I know that district at whole is a somewhat conservative district, but I think it's really important that we get people participating. That like we don't have to assign like, well, how are people going to, do they line up? Are they part of my team or their team or whatever? It's just like, let's get really broad participation in these elections. And there's some challenges, frankly, when you have people like who don't have a place to go. If you don't have a real easy place for your precinct, and you have to get a hold of, like, you have to get registered and obtain your absentee ballot and then turn that in. So we just wanted to go over a few of those options. I know Julie was talking about that, and she's so great about that. And the Secretary of State's page has got all those. And I know the Rock the Vote's really good at, or your effort is really good at kind of giving people all those resources. But the best thing I can tell you is you can go directly to Secretary of State's website. You can also go directly to Beltrami County Auditor's office. And once early voting starts, which is, I think, 40 some days before the election. So I think is it the 22nd?
The 23rd.
23rd, 22nd. Yeah, it's 46 days before each election. And so that's starting right up. So you can always go, if you're in Bemidji, you can go to the auditor's office, register and vote in person if you're most comfortable doing that. That is always an option. You can also register on election day. But if you are in a mail only, and I'm going to give those out, that is Birch, Moose, Sugarbush, Taylor, Ten Strike, and Brook Lake. And I'm going to grab my map, which just blew away.
Hey, it's live radio. We're there. He is.
Those are our Cass Lake voters. and that's the eastern.
Oh, I think he froze up.
That to me kind of shows, some inequity in voting access right there. So it's like, so folks need to be told, oh, right, I got to be able to obtain that ballot or go to the auditor's office or, get my stuff through the mail to get that ballot and get it mailed in on time. So that presents a challenge. So again, that's Taylor, Birch, Sugar, Moose, Ten Lake, and Brook Lake are all mail. So they can start working on getting those ballots. I think the end of September is when those get mailed out. If you're registered, then they get mailed out. Yep. So getting registered and getting those absentee.
Hey, I want to just say happy National Voter Registration Day and Peeny for Nancy, Mark, and everybody that's jumped on the show. State Auditor Julie Blaha. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents, and we'll be on tomorrow. See you soon.
No matter if you're eating out or cooking something at home, eat local.